What's up, guys? You are tuning in to another episode of Such a Time as This podcast, and I am your host, Tony Hall. Today, we have a very, very, very special guest. This man was really, I would say, my first love, but because of God, I'm going to have to say my second. But as an earthly person, he was my first love, and I'm so honored to have this man grace the presence of my podcast. None other than my dad, my father, Anthony Hall.
Thank you very much. I got to tell you, my name is also Tony Hall. It's an honor and a privilege to be a part of your podcast. I've watched several episodes, and I like what you're doing. And so I'm really excited that you've given me the opportunity to also be a part of what's special to you.
Yeah. No, I think, Dad, this was in the making from the beginning. You are such a God. I don't want to say a God figure. I don't want to say that right. But let me just say God uses you, and He's currently using you for literally such a time as this. Your story is remarkable, from being born in Birmingham, Alabama. I'm not going to get too much in it, but being born into Birmingham, Alabama, to everything you've went through, the different jobs, the people, the ups, the downs. Like, I think this is an incredible platform for you to just express yourself, and also the many people you've impacted. Like, you have 5 kids, but to be real, you have so many other kids because you've coached, you've helped, you've mentored, and they literally see you as a father figure as well. And so I just want this to be a moment where you literally solidify your story, your legacy in this history, and you just talk about, why you feel like God created you for such a time as this and how He's using you. So just kind of give us a little bit backstory. I will say, don't go too long-winded, okay?
And I guess I do have a history of being long-winded. Yes. So I will definitely try to make it a little shorter. But again, born and raised Birmingham, Alabama. My mom was one of that was very, very impactful in my life. She was one of those who, I as a kid, I didn't understand why it was so important that I came home before the street lights. And now, as I've gotten older, I understood what she was doing and the things that she was kind of putting in place. Mm-hmm. And number one was discipline, and number two is wanting to make sure that I got an opportunity to live to see another day, because I had a lot of friends that didn't get that opportunity. And so so being a single parent, and then obviously my dad was in my life. I have 2 amazing sisters. And my older sister is one that, when it comes to kind of getting me right, she was one that had no problem fighting a guy like me. You may think I'm a big guy, but she had no qualms when it came to trying to knock me out. And my little sister, Maisha, I always talk to her about, she was born in December. And one of the craziest things that I love about it was, she was born right before Christmas. And so I asked my mom, okay, so what am I getting for Christmas? So she said, my little sister, Maisha. And my response to her was, well, I don't want her. I want my G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu grip. Mm-hmm. And so, and I tease my sister all the time about that. But having said a lot of that, we had a great upbringing. It was one of those humble, and we did a lot of great things together, man. So, it was good. It was good. I would say so.
So tell us a little bit about growing up in Birmingham, Alabama, being in Illiton Village, how you got into football, how you got into sports, and how that really shaped your life into the man you are today.
So man, which is a remarkable story. So I went to Wilkerson Elementary School, right? I used to play in a band, which is ironic, but I used to play bass drums. And what was kind of cool is Parker High School is a school that is probably in my humble opinion, one of the best high schools a person can go to learn, whether it's sports, entertainment, et cetera, et cetera. But one of the great things for me when I was at Wilkerson, I used to always want to go to see Parker play. Well, I found out that they were in need for what they call at that time water boys. So what I did was, I had a friend of mine that asked me he may want to come down. They need water boys, and so here it is. I would ride my bike from home to Parker during their practice hours to be their water boy. And I always dream. I said, one day, man, I'm going to be able to play for the school. One day, I'm going to be able to play for the school. And the great Cecil Leonard, man, which was my high school coach. However, back then he used to call me Big Guy. He said, Bigum, go over here, go across the street and get me, whether it's a drink or get his flavored cigarettes, whatever it was he asked me to do, I would definitely do it. And so what I would do is I had the opportunity of traveling with the team when we went to Legion Field when they played these games. And the beauty behind all of that was I felt like I was important because now my elementary school friends are seeing me at Parker's games on the field, which I feel like that's a big deal. So what ended up happening was my senior year, well, in my 8th grade year, I go up to Parker. I make the junior varsity team, and then after that season, Coach Leonard said, "Okay, I think we're gonna go ahead and put you on varsity." And so I said, "Okay," but what I didn't realize was that this guy was going to extract all of the things that he saw in me. He was going to extract all those things and make it a part of me. Mm-hmm. And so my 9th grade year was pretty good. 10th grade year, great. 11th grade year, super. 12th grade year, just really, really did great. I really, whether it was being player of the week, always in the papers, always doing great things relative to football. But Cecil Leonard was the coach that I didn't like because he was hard on me. Well, I didn't realize he was hard on me because he saw something in me. And so he did everything he could to make me a better player. And be honest, I actually feared the guy. I feared him because, he would always tell us right before we left the stadium going from the high school going to the stadium, he would write on the chalkboard what he wanted the score to be for at halftime. Well, you can either have that, you can have nothing less than that, but you have to have that particular score or higher. And sometimes if we didn't have it, man, he made sure we understood what expectations was and what success looked like. And so he drove us to want to be better, right? He drove us to want better for ourselves. And again, not just him. He had a plethora of coaching. And I hate to start naming them because I would hate to miss one because they were all of them were so instrumental in a lot of our kids' life, because whether it's Illita Village, Loveland Village, Smithfield, and the surrounding areas, man. I mean, those guys were kind of like the father figures to the guys that didn't have fathers. So that was kind of like my whole little football high school deal. And then after that, I got a chance to, go play college football at Mississippi Valley State University. Mm-hmm. So, which was also good. But the one thing, the difference is Coach Leonard he played such an instrumental part in my development. And I when it came to what he said and what he asked me to do, I wanted to make sure I refused to let him down. But when I got to college playing football, that particular coach was a little more passive. And I'm not sure if I really gave as much as I probably could have given. But at the end of the day, it wasn't bad, but I don't think it was my best. So, but again, that goes back to having that person in your life that inspires you, drives you, and motivates you.
No, that's really good. Because I know a lot of people who listen to this are also current and former athletes, and it's just really important to have that father figure or just someone who could lead you along that path, and it's not just in football. And I feel like I got my love of football from you. It was definitely passed down from you. And like, I feel like I love football so much because it really does teach you about life. Like, I literally, like, my favorite team of all time is the University of Alabama. Okay. Like, growing up, I thought I was a Bama boy. You know, that Nick Saban era, that was very monumental and pivotal to me. And so I just kind of want to go and talk about like leadership and just how you became the leader you are today. Was there someone, or if you can pinpoint one or two people who truly had an impact in your life to where you were like, okay, I don't want to be like my environment. I want to be different than my environment. Is there someone that was there to truly guide you and uplift you and things like that, that wasn't just like a coach and things like that?
So, my brother Ken, one of the great things that he did when I was a kid was gave me an opportunity to see what life was like outside of the environment that I grew up in. He gave me an opportunity to travel out of the country to where I had no idea that there were people in other countries look like me. So that kind of gave me an idea of exactly how to look at myself in a different manner and not be a product of the environment that I grew up in. Moreover, he just showed me some of the great things about just doing the right thing, make great choices, lead by example, right? If there's things that need to be done, don't wait for someone to ask you to get them done. Just go ahead and get them done because that's what's important. And more importantly, he always talked about your footprint in the sand. What are you leaving behind? And for me, that was at a young age. What were you leaving behind? And so it made me kind of walk in a way that I wanted to, number one, honor my parents, honor myself, and more importantly, like my dad would say, your last name is very, very important. And so that whole name, you represent that wherever you go. And so the last thing you want to do is put yourself in a position to where you cause any harm or degrade the name that your parents gave you. So that was, for me, that was important. So that was kind of like he was that one person outside of a coach that became my liaison, that pushed me, that drove me, that made me want more out of life.
That's so good. That's so good. Okay, so you end up getting married. You got married young. I ain't even gonna lie. You got
married at the age of 25.
Yeah, that's young. My mom, y'all are like 4 years apart. So she was 19. 19. 19. So you decide, this is a woman I want to spend the rest of my life with, but this is not the city nor state I want to be in anymore. So then you ended up packing everything up, moving to Texas. And then you had 3 other children during your span of being in Texas. So kind of talk to me about fatherhood and how you became a father, and what does being a dad mean to you?
Well, before I'm gonna kind of unfold it a little bit, kind of peel the layers back. So prior to me getting married, or even before I met my wife, I had a daughter. Her name was Ashley.
Shout out Ashley.
So not her name was, but her name is Ashley. And then I have also a son by the name of Christopher.
Chris.
So again, they were before I got married. Some folks would say I was being fast, but it was what it was. But at the end of the day, they were instrumental in me watching, because I wasn't ready to be a father at that time. I really was. I mean, I'm just 25 years old. I'm trying to figure out my life, and shout out to both of their parents, their moms, because they did an outstanding job relative to raising them, giving them structure, and while they allowed me to kind of go off to college and try to chase my either football career or get a degree, whatever. But so then coming to Texas, I had a buddy of mine that was coaching at Prairie View, A&M University.
Yeah.
And he said, hey, they were looking for a offensive line coach, and I think when I got to Texas after leaving Birmingham, I think with 30 degrees in Birmingham, may have had some snow flurries or what have you. But when I got to Houston, it was 87 degrees, and I had on a coat, and I was sweating before I ever got off the plane. I said, "This is a place for me. I'm not going anywhere back." So when I got to Houston, loved it. At that point, I told my wife then, who then was my girlfriend, I say, "Hey, listen, we're going to move to Texas," and we packed up. I think it was a white rabbit. I forget the model, but it was a rabbit. But we packed all of our stuff in there, and we moved to Houston, man. And from that point, things started kind of going really good. That's when PV they weren't winning at all, but the experience of that's kind of where I fell in love with the ability to pour into people, because those young men, it was some of the things I used to do just from a motivating perspective, I thought was kind of unique. Because what I would do is I would tell some of our players, knowing that they're not 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars, 2 stars, or even 0 stars. I mean, we had kids that loved to play the game of football, not necessarily football players at the time. And so what would happen, I would tell them, "Hey, listen, in the stand when we were playing on Grambling, matter of fact, I was standing right across from Coach Eddie Robertson at the time, and I would tell our players, "Hey, listen, there's 4 NFL scouts in the stands. Some may be here to look at some of Grambling players, but some may be here to look at you as well. So here's an opportunity for you to take advantage of the opportunity of having these scouts here watching the opposing team. If you take this opportunity and just ball out, you'll get that call." And that became a habit every game. And of course, we would get beat, by 30 sometime, 40 sometime. But one of the things that I saw when I talked to the kids, how excited they were about someone was there to see them. Someone was there that would give them the opportunity to, further their football career, or someone was there to show some sort of appreciation of the hard work that they've been putting in to try to get to that, to the next level. Now, but again, that never translated into wins. But at the end, it gave us opportunity to grow, and some of the players would come and say, "Hey, Coach Tony, man, they just want to we just have bonds where we just sit down and we just talked about life, and they would talk about how, we know they're not here to see us, but you made me believe that they were here to see us, and because of that made me play harder." And so that's when I fell in love. I fell in love with coaching. I fell in love and pouring into others, because again, like I said, my brother poured so much into me. I wanted to make sure I was able to pour into others, so that as he lifted me up, I'm then also lift others up as well.
That's so good, because you do such a good job. I feel like I get that from you too as well. Just the encouraging factor. Like you really are a really great coach. And it is really awesome to see. I kind of want to shift gears a little bit and just kind of talk about your testimonies. I mean, you have many.
Yeah.
And I really want you to kind of talk about how you even became a man of faith.
So, one of the things I identified early on in my life was that, I was always brought up into the church, right? My mom kept us in the church all the time. I was part of the junior deacon board. Me and some of the guys that went to church with me, we would do the we would do the kind of like the hymn notes for right before the service actually started. And we had there's a minister by the name of Reverend Ambrose Hill, when I was a kid that just allowed our Sunday school teaching to be more about life, right? And because he made us comfortable, or he allowed us to be comfortable to kind of talk about those things that were important to us, that we were dealing with from a high school perspective or what have you. It allowed us the opportunity just to kind of, build a close knit family. And then I just always knew that, and my mom always told me, in regards to what takes place in your life, there's going to be a time to where everything that I'm pouring into you now, you're going to need it later. At the end, it's all about making sure that when that time comes, the Bible talks about train up a child when they're early. So when as they get older, they won't depart from all the wisdom that they were taught earlier. And I just chose not to forget about that. And so, to answer your question, my level of faith became when I understood that there was things that I wanted out of life, and in order to get those things out of life, especially when you're not qualified to get those things, when you don't think you're qualified to get those things. But you have the opportunity by your faith and your teaching to start understanding that if I believe, I can receive. Okay. So I said, okay, let me try this out. I remember we got our first house, and I kept saying, The pastor said all I need to do is go and start looking for homes. Okay, look for homes. Well, what do you do when you get there? You just start laying hands on the rooms in a home that you want, and now you start to receive toward what you've been believing for, which created corresponding actions to what I was believing. So after that, we all of a sudden started getting. I think we got our first house. I'm like, hold on, I got a house. Wow. So this really worked. So there's an opportunity. I've always wanted a 500 series Mercedes-Benz. Always wanted one, right? And so I knew I could never afford it. I'm like, okay, well, if I use the same principle we used to get this house, I may be able to get this car. It's okay. So what I did, I would go out and I went to the dealership, and I would go and I got in this is a white 500 series S500, and it had the presidential, which means it had bulletproof windows. And so I would go to the dealership and talk to the guys, and the salesman would come in and they would be talking, okay, what do you have to put down? What do you do for a living? This, that, and the other. And I just told him, I said, well, I'm not trying to purchase it, but I will purchase it. And then, okay, fine, good. So I end up driving, I asked him, can I test drive it? So the salesman got in the car with me, and we test drove the car, and then we drove it back. But he didn't realize as I was driving it, I was picturing myself driving that car, putting it in my driveway. And that became something that every time I would go back, I would kind of have that imagination in my head about wanting to pull that car in my garage. Well, make a long story short, I started going to that place maybe twice or 3 times a month, and laying hands on the car. Got to the point where the dealer, the owner of the dealership, noticed that I always came, and he kept saying, well, sir, are you wanting to buy a car? Are you trying to buy a car? I said, man, I'm gonna, that S500, I want that car. I want that car for real. And he says, okay, well, whenever you're ready, we'll have it here. So again, for about another month and a half, I would go on the weekends, get in the car, and it got to the point where they showed me coming so much to where when I got there, they would just throw me the keys. And they know all I was going to do was just sit in the car. I wasn't going to drive it. I was just going to sit in it. So I sat in it, and I would just picture myself driving this car, on the highway. I would picture driving it over the bridges, and then the street that I was living on, turning on that street, and then parking it, matching the garage door opener and the garage door opening, and then I'm driving it into the garage, and then the garage closes. And I just kind of had that imagination in my head. So maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, I go back to the dealership, and the car's gone. I'm like, hold on, what you guys do with my car? Man, the salesman come out, man, you wasn't going to be able to afford that car, and we sold it. And they thought it was a joke and all. I said, man, I cannot believe that. I said, Lord, did I miss it? Did I follow the instruction? And he said, no, it's gone. Interesting. I'm a firm believer what God has for you, he has for you, and can't no one take it away from you. So, Lord, behold, the owner of the dealership had that same car. And so he and I were sitting there. He drove up and I said, hey, it's back. And no, the salesman said, no, that's the owner's car. I said, okay, well, can I sit in this one? No, you can't sit in the owner's car. But because I would come so frequent, me and the owner kind of build a relationship to where we just start talking. I would sit in his office for hours and talk. And what was beautiful, what the beauty behind it was, we built such a huge chemistry to where I would just come by, say hi, and just keep going. Or he would see me coming, he'd throw me the keys for his car, I'd just go sit in the car and do the same thing. So one evening he called and said, hey, listen, man, you really want this car, don't you? I said, man, I want this car bad, man. You just don't know how bad I want this car. And he says, okay, well, just get some money together and let's see what we can do. I said, what kind of money we're talking about? Substantial amount of money that you need to put down, because this car at the time was probably well over $100,000. So he says, you need a substantial amount of money down. I'm like, okay. I said, well, listen, I'm gonna keep believing. I'm gonna keep praying that God provides. And there's someone later on that evening came to look for the same kind of car, a white S500 presidential model. And unfortunately, that's the only car they had on the lot was his personal car. And so the person wanted to buy his car. And he says, no. And for the owner to say, listen, he's got to make money. So at the end of the day, he's trying to make money. So he wants to make sure that car is, he didn't care that it was his personal, but if he's able to make money from that, he's able to move forward with it. So what ended up happening, he said, the guy kept saying, well, I'll give you X number of dollars for it, cash right now. And he's getting ready to do this deal, and some stops him, and he just could not move forward with that deal. Again, what God has for you, He has for you. Can't nobody take it away from you. So, a couple of days later, he started getting offers for this car, and he kept turning these offers down, but didn't understand why he was turning these offers down, and it got him to the point where he became he didn't understand why he was turning these offers down when his job, his primary reason for being in business is to make money. So he calls me because we became friends. We exchanged numbers. So he called me 2 weeks later. I said, hey, Tony. I say, what's going on, buddy? He says, come down, come get your car. I'm like, man, please. I don't have any money like that. Come and get your car. I said, listen, don't be playing with me. She says, come and get your car. I said, I don't have any. He says, whatever you have, I'm okay. And I will finance it for you myself. Come and get your car. So I'm like, okay, this ain't happening. I'm like, Lord, okay, this ain't happening. But surely it happened. So I get down there. He has it watched. He has it looked, and he's just like, man, I don't know what it is, but something would not allow me to sell this car. And every time I try to sell this car, you came in my mind. And I just didn't understand why. And then he says, then I understood that God put you in my life because you shared some things in my life that helped me. And now here's an opportunity for me, God using me to help you. So he threw me the keys. We signed the paperwork. And everything that I had been visualizing from months prior to, I drove that same route that was in my head. I drove on the highway, went over the bridge, got into the subdivision, made a right. When I made a right, I had the doggone garage door in my car. I hit the garage door open and I pulled the car in. So that point and that happening within my life showed me that God is faithful. God is faithful to his word. When it says faith without works is dead. And more importantly, what God has for you is for you. And can't nobody stop you from getting what he has for you. What your name was, what he has your name on, that's all you. Can't nobody take that away from you. And that gentleman just not realize that when he purchased that car for himself, he was actually purchasing it for me. He had no idea he was doing that. But praise God, he did so.
Yeah. But when you were talking, what came to my mind was in the Bible where God talks about my people perish because they lack vision. And, I also think about God gives you the desires of your heart, but according to his will. Right. And it's like he put that desire in your heart and you acted on it. And that's something that we're really here on this podcast that we're really trying to push our viewers and our audience to do is when God gives you that idea, when he gives you that desire, when he gives you that vision, like write it down, make it plain, and like act on it. Like faith is an action word. It's not passive. It's an active word. Like it makes me also think about Transformation Church when Pastor Mike Todd, he's like, it's only crazy till it happens, and I think just seeing you growing up and just how you worked your faith principles, you and mom, it really helped develop us into the people we are because like we became faith-driven people and things of that nature. And also listening to you makes me think about when I got my full ride to USC. Yes. And I really think that transformed our family's faith forever. Yes, it did. Because I will be so real, y'all. Like, I don't come from like the richest of the richest of the richest. Like, we don't live in Beverly Hills. Like, we don't have any of that. But what we do have is faith. And I think that's the currency that outweighs money. And so I remember telling my parents, like, I am not going to pay for school. Like, I'm going to go to USC. I'm going to go to the University of Southern California. I'm going to get a full ride. And like, that's it. Like, I don't know where the money going to come from. I don't know anything, but it happened. And I remember, because you played a huge part in that process as well, especially right before I was graduating Prairie View. And I was in one of my professor's classes and his assistant, I don't know if it was his assistant or if it was another professor that was just at the school. But I remember in that class, everyone had to stand up and they were talking about what's your next moves after you graduate and things like that. And I was like, I stood up with the boldness and I was like, I'm going to the University of Southern California and I'm gonna study specialized journalism, And I remember class was ending and I was about to leave. And that professor assistant man had pulled me aside and he was just like, so you really want to go to USC? And I was like, yeah, I want to go to USC. I feel like that's where God is telling me to go. I'm going to go. I was such a young girl whose faith was on fire. Like nothing, like if you said anything, like it wasn't going to like make me shift my faith at all until this one man had came up to me. And he was just like, you're not good enough to get into USC. I hope you know that. Like, they're not going to choose you. You should look at Northwestern. And I remember I was so jaw dropped because I remember I looked at the professor who was actually teaching the class and I looked at him trying to get some type of validation. Like, you going to just let this man sit here and say that? And like, the man was just like, okay, and like, He didn't basically come to my assistance at all. And I remember I had called you and Mom, and I was crying hysterically because I was like, this man had the nerve to tell me that I'm not going to USC and all of that. And I just remember allowing that to fuel my fire. I remember during that time, Transformation Church was going through their Crazy Faith series, and they were in Pastor Darius Daniels. He was preaching Blazy Faith, and it was basically about the 3 Hebrew boys and having faith on fire and how they were thrown into the fiery furnace but came out untouched, unhinged, it's not smelling like smoke. Like God got you, basically. And I remember I called y'all, and that's basically what you said. And I kind of want you to kind of pick up from right there when I called you guys, and all of that, and then talk about my acceptance too.
So 2 things. One was I was extremely upset that someone would have the audacity to say that to you. That's first thing. Because your mom, bless her heart, she wanted to fight.
Yeah.
She was not one. You just mess with her daughter, and at the end of the day, you just don't do that to her kids, right? So shout out to my wife Michelle.
Yeah, mommy.
But what happened was, as I started listening to what had taken place, I knew then I couldn't engage myself the way I wanted to. I said, okay, what she needs is me as a father. She needs somebody to listen to her. So I wasn't quick to respond. I wanted to make sure I listened to understand exactly what was taking place. And so, but then I started saying that God started telling me that was the first part of what the enemy was trying to do to prevent you from your purpose and your destiny, in which he had already prepared for you. So that guy was he was just like a pawn to say all the negative things that the enemy swore that you would listen to derail you from where you were, your purpose. And so when I started talking to you, at that point, it was just reminding you of who you were, reminding you of all that you've said, all that you've wanted to do in your life, all the things that I've seen you do and accomplish within your life at such a young age. And so the moment you start telling me everything he said, and again, although I got upset, I knew what he was saying wasn't the truth. And so I wanted to speak not what he was saying, but I wanted to speak life into everything that you've been believing for, everything you've been believing God to help you with. And the fact that you constantly said, I'm going to go to University of Southern California, USC Trojans, and Mom, Dad, you're not going to have to pay a dime. I'm going to be able to go and live. I'll be able to do all the things I wanted to do, and you guys won't have to pay a dime. Now, my faith is strong, and I said, well, Lord, I said, okay, Lord, if this is your will, by all means, this is going to happen. And then she goes back, like she said, Pastor Mike Todd, when he's talking about crazy faith. It ain't crazy until it happened. And I be doggone, like clockwork, like the God we serve. She gets the call. She gets an Edinburgh scholarship that paid for her entire scholarship, for the entire semester, or for the year of you being in.
Yeah, the entire duration of my school.
My God. And so we're sitting there, and she comes in and she starts to cry, and I'm thinking, did somebody else say something else to her? Because now I'm about to get, I may have some issues. But no, it was her. It was happy tears. I got this scholarship, Mom, Dad. Like I said, you don't have to pay for anything. And I'm going to go to USC, and I'm going to be able to study journalism, and I'm going to do all these great things. And I'm going to move out to Los Angeles, and Lord behold, COVID happened.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Sure
COVID
did.
happened. And so it kind of hindered her from going out the time that she needed. So she had to take some online stuff, courses. But then her having the ability to interview with some of the most electrifying, whether it's NBA players, movie stars. You know, I think there was one actor or actress that she interviewed that her mom was so intrigued on just listening to her, Tony interview the person, that we was like, wow, who is this? And so the moment, you know, COVID cases kind of went down and they started kind of opening up travel, we still trying to figure out, okay, where are you going to stay in LA, right? And, you know, and luckily I have a cousin that lives in Los Angeles, and her husband and family just, you know, we say, okay, we can't make it out, but can you please kind of give us kind of a generalized area of what she needs to be, or where she needs to go, because she didn't have a car at the time. And she said downtown. Well, we said downtown. Well, because USC's downtown. But if you ever know what USC is, it's downtown is not a very glorified downtown. So understand that. And my cousin said, say, if she was my child, I probably wouldn't have her living down that way. But you know, we by faith, we knew that God would protect her, and so she ended up moving, and she ended up graduating. And again, COVID cases, you know, started to come down. So they end up having, after, you know, she finished, so she completed her course requirements, graduated. Now we can't go to the graduation, so we get a chance to watch it online, right? But to see her graduate with that USC shawl around her neck and what have you was incredible. And then being the first person to get the award, the scholarship for the Edinburgh journalism, this is the first time they ever decided to do this, and she was the first person to receive that honor and that award. And so again, I go back to what God has for you, He has for you. And so that man that may have said whatever he wanted to say at PV, you know, me as a dad, I was like, well, we're going to go back to PV. And my mind said, she's going to walk with that USC stole around her neck, and we're going to let him know what you tried to say to tear this young lady down. Everything that she received is predicated on what God has given her. But I said, no, that's not God. That ain't God. God ain't got nothing to do with it. That's my flesh trying to engage with that. But I just knew that He's faithful, and we're extremely happy from what took place.
Yeah. Thanks, Dad. I appreciate that. I really do. I kind of want to, you know, turn it back to you. Not kind of. I really want to, because there is a few things that you said that really stuck to me. Even while you've been here at my house during the holiday break, you and AJ both say this, like, what is going to happen is already written down. Like God already has it written down. You don't got to worry about it. It's just about you walking it out. It's already planned. It's literally walking it like you talk it, you know. But I do want to pivot and talk about your motorcycle accident, because I almost lost my dad like I don't know how many years ago now. It was in 2022. Yeah. It's 26, so like 4 years ago.
Well, before I go in that, I'm kind of go back to the statement that you're making about your divine timing. Mm-hmm. So one, you have your divine time of your what God has for you. Again, when He said He knew you from before you enter your mom's womb, He had already scripted your life exactly the way it's going to be, right? Now all you have to do is make sure there are cycles in a clock that certain things are just being put out, right? Mm-hmm. You just got to make that time. You got to make it to that spot, and when you make it to that spot, it overtakes you, right? His grace, His blessings, everything that part of what He's trying to give you, you get.
That alignment.
Yeah, you're there. But in order for you to get there, you've got to go through some things, because the enemy knows if you get there, I lost, or he lost. Well, he's already lost. But if he can get you to start talking against what you've been believing and the manifestation of what you want out of life, he then went. The most prized possession that God has is his children, is us. And because of that, he wants to make sure the enemy knows that. And he knows that his demise is coming extremely fast. So what he tries to do, he's just trying to take everything that means so much to God away with him. So we, as men and women of God, have to continue to reach out to the lost, continue to pray for those who are in need, those who need salvation, right? Making sure that you do all the things you can to get those saved, because the one thing that God prides is, and he loves unconditionally, is his creation, and we're his creation, and so we're his number one priority. So that's to kind of go back to that whole time alignment. Now the motorcycle accident, man. One of the things I realized when it came to, I've always wanted a motorcycle, and I said, well, at some point I'll buy one. And but I was actually riding one of my friend's motorcycles just so that I can really identify if I really want this thing, right? And I was having so much fun on it, so I decided to invest in one. So I got one and had it for a couple of years. And I would drive on the highway and go, we lived in a little city of kind of central Texas called New Braunfels, Texas. And what we would do, they had what is called River Road. And River Road was one of those winding roads that aligned with the bed of a river that took you all the way up to the lake. And so I would, like clockwork, get on that road, have great fun, enjoy myself. Had no issues, no concerns whatsoever. Well, this particular time, I got up to where the lake was and started enjoying myself and just relaxing. And then on my way down, I'm just relaxing, kind of cruising. Wasn't going fast. Wasn't driving crazy. Just so happened there was one of the stores on that route that was pushing out gravel because they were kind of cleaning their parking lot. And my back tire caught some of the gravel. And when it caught it, my right hand thrust the throttle, so it pushed me forward. And at that point, I had a car in front of me. There was one behind me. There was one coming toward me. And then there was a river. Two things. One is, I was like, okay, in the midst of all this, your mind kind of slows down. So I said, okay, well, I don't feel like getting wet, so I'm not going to turn into the river. I don't feel like running in the back of a car because at that point I didn't have the full helmet. I only had the camp helmet on. And then the car that was coming for me, I said, okay, now I'm thinking about Evel Knievel. I'm not sure, you may not know who Evel Knievel was, but okay, from a daredevil perspective, if I hit this car the right way, because I'm out of control, if I hit this car the right way, I can roll over the front of the car, over the bike, and just land on the hood. Okay? None of that took place. So I said, okay, let me just try to put the bike down. So when you put a bike down, all you're doing is leaning over so that it actually falls. You just make sure that your leg is not underneath. Well, somehow or another, I was caught myself putting it down, and I ended up hitting the throttle, and the pants I had caught my one of the stands that you hold your feet up. So when I hit one front tire, it flipped the bike. So when the bike flipped, it flipped me along with the bike. And so when the bike landed, it landed on me, and this bike's probably 1,000 pounds.
Yes, it was a big bike. It was one of them big boys. Yeah,
about 1,000 pounds. And here's the cool, it ain't cool now, but it was in my head. This was cool. I'm sitting there, and the bike lands on me, and Lord behold, to me, I'm thinking I'm fine. I'm like, okay, let me. The cars, they stopped. Folks started running toward me. Luckily, there was a young lady, older lady that was a nurse. She came over, trying to check on me and all that stuff. And then in my mind, I'm like, I'm fine. Good, just give me a minute, I'm fine. Because now I'm embarrassed. I've fallen off a motorcycle. In my mind, I'm good. But for some reason, I could not catch my breath. I'm like, okay, man, I can't catch my breath. I said, just give me a minute. I catch my breath. After I catch my breath, I'm good to go. Well, that never happened. The cops ended up coming, or the paramedics ended up coming. And they said, are you okay? I said, yeah, I'm good, I'm good. And then I guess I passed out. I had no idea that I passed out. And I remember the paramedic grabbed my head up, and she says, you got to go. We got to get you to the emergency room immediately. I'm like, no, I'm fine. She said, you don't realize you just passed out. So she said, asking me the question is, where does it hurt? All over. So I ended up having broken ribs, a broken leg, road rash all on my side, my back, punctured lungs. I mean, the doc was like, man, your body's looked like it's been through a tornado, man, and it just got shook. And so I had all kind of ailments, but again, I didn't realize it. So the thing that hurt the most was the ribs. So I had 7 cracked ribs. So they put me up on they put me on a gurney, they put me in the back of the ambulance. Now I'm like, oh my goodness, what about my bike? Here it is, I'm thinking about my bike, not me, right? So get my bike. They said they'll have a tow truck come and get it. And now I'm riding, they're driving me to this emergency room, this trauma unit. I'm like, why do I have to go to trauma unit? You bleeding internally. You don't realize you're bleeding internally. I'm like, okay. But what really upset me was the driver hit every bump that he can imagine in trying to get me to this doggone trauma unit. I mean, he hit every bump, every stump, you name it, he hit it. And I'm just cringing because my ribs are broken, so I'm hurting and I'm cringing. I'm like, man, if you don't stop, man, please tell him stop, because I'm like, what are you doing? But needless to say, when they finally got me on the smooth road, they rushed me into the emergency room. And at that point, I don't remember anything at that point because I think I was out. And the doc said, I guess they hooked me up to all these tubes and all this other stuff. And I only know that because your mom was telling me, and after she told me, one of my bosses, they all came up to see how I was doing. I'm hooked up with all these tubes and all this stuff. And the next day, I think things got progressively worse. So that I had an embolism where blood clogged right in my lung, to where if it moved at any centimeter, you won't make it through the night. I'm like, okay. Now me, in my mind, I'm still Tony Hall, the cool cat that just thinks he's invincible. So I'm not taking it serious. But when I looked at my brother and I looked at my wife and I looked at the doc and there was no smiles there, you may not make it through this night. And so that's when immediately I became afraid. Then I said, okay, this is crazy. So they took me, I'm not sure if it was surgery, whatever they did, but they did something to get the blood clot to move. They put all kind of thinners or what have you in my body. And so a couple of days later, I was in ICU, I think for maybe 4 or 5 days. And then they take me out of ICU. And then they're now rushing me back to ICU because things started going progressively worse. I'm not sure what was going on, but they said, we got to keep you here. Well, this time when they put me in ICU, where this particular hospital, the way it was set up, there is a morgue, which was right down the way, maybe several doors from where I was. And so visiting hours, you could not come visit between hours of 1 and 2, because that's the time that they're taking bodies from the morgue and having funeral homes come and get the bodies. Well, the window that I had in the ICU, I saw it all the time. And I kept saying, that's not going to be me. That's not going to be me. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm seeing them take bodies out. And I said, that's not going to be me. And I kept telling myself, that is not how my story's going to end. That is not going to be me. And so the more I said it, the more I started believing it. And then there was an orderly there that was there to try to help me or supposedly help me, but all he did was make me mad because here it is, my ribs broke and he's trying to pull me and turn me, and I'm like stopping, he's not stopping, and I said, man, let me tell you something. When I get better, I'm coming to get you. I swear I'm gonna come and get you. I mean this, man. I'm coming to get you, because he did everything that I thought he shouldn't be doing relative to trying to make sure I was comfortable. He was twisting me, turning me, flipping me, and had no regards to how I was feeling. But what reminded me of, as they were constantly taking those bodies out, no, that's not me. No, I would live and not die. I would declare the works of the Lord. And I got to the point where I said it so much, and to the point where I started believing it in my heart. And at that moment, that night, I had a vision, right? So a vision of God appeared to me while I was asleep.
Wait, you gotta, cause hold on, they gotta make sure. This was, are you finna talk about when the HUD?
Yeah.
Okay, let me tell y'all, that this vision was the same night they had told my dad he was not gonna make it through the night. Right. So this was like real, like God literally came to visit his son in the late night hours. Yeah. Okay, go.
So, I'm sitting there, I'm lying down, and everybody leaves, and I'm sitting there and I close my eyes, not knowing if I ever opened them. So God came to me in a vision. I didn't see his face, didn't see anything but his torso. And so all he did was he put his arms around me and he hugged me. And when he hugged me, he whispered to me and said, everything's gonna be okay. The moment he touched me, this is how great God is. Not good, but how great he is. Especially when he says, when a young lady touched the hem of his garment and she was made whole. The moment he touched me, my body started healing from the inside out. So everything that was hurting was still hurting, but it started healing. So all of a sudden, here it is. I can't move before this touch. I could move to the left or right. I can only move my head. And all of a sudden, God says, get up. Make sure I heard you right. He said, get up. So when he said get up, I got up. I got up and I stood, and I was not supposed to be standing. The nurse and the doc came in and said, Mr. Hall, what are you doing? I said, man, I'm up. I'm moving around. And he said, well, sit. Well, you need to lay back down. Well, what they didn't understand was the power of God, his touch, that agape love that he has for us. That touch started healing my body. So where the bones were starting to strengthen and the muscles had started to come back together, and I stood up. And so typically, and it was crazy. Typically, when you go from ICU back to your room because you're getting better. Well, after he touched me, I went straight from ICU straight to a rehab facility to learn how to walk again. And the doctor was like, how in the world?
You healed fast. Yeah. You healed fast.
And that evening, so they had the ambulance come get me. They take me over to this rehabilitation hospital in New Braunfels, Texas. And my body was steadily, every day I was being healed. I wasn't feeling it sore. Now again, I was still sore because again, things were still trying to you know, get right. But what happened was there was a young lady, my therapist. I was like, to me, it was humiliating because she said, you got to take a shower. Well, how am I going to take a shower? Well, we got to teach you how to walk again. We got to teach you how to dress yourself again. We got to teach you all of these things because now the muscles in your body, based on an accident, just wasn't working the way they should. However, she just said, if you just keep believing, I kept saying, okay, I trust God. I trust God. I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna be here. Well, a couple of days had passed, and it was also a senior citizen place to where, you know, they had some seniors that were living in the facility, and so during lunchtime or breakfast time, they would all go down and eat together. And so my therapist said, well, you need to go down and eat. I ain't going down there. And he says, what do you mean? I'm not going down there. Well, the reason why, not that I didn't want to be social, I didn't want what was taking place in my mind. I didn't want to be one of those to where I had to see someone being fed because they couldn't feed themselves. Seeing someone in a chair because they can't move or get up. I didn't need that in my mind. I needed my mind to stay focused on my healing and God's healing me. And so so I just refused to go. So he says, hey, listen, if you don't go down there and eat, you're just not gonna eat. I said, that's fine. I just called my wife and said, hey, honey, can you bring me something to eat? And the kids would go out and bring me something to eat. And because I just refused to be in the environment. Not that I didn't want to be around them. I didn't want to be in the environment because I needed to protect my mind. I needed to protect what I saw. I needed to stay focused on what was in front of me. And so that evening, a couple of days later, you know, things are getting better. You know, God spoke to me. He said, hey, listen, I saved you for a particular reason. And that reason is you need to be able to tell people what I did. And so I'm like, okay. So when he tells me this, I'm like, okay, well, I'll do it in the morning. I'll try to lay down. No, you're going to do it right now. So I grabbed my phone. I'm like, no, I ain't doing it right now. He said, no, you're going to do it right now. So I grabbed my phone and I started recording myself. And I said, this is exactly, I said, I don't know who this is for. But and it may not be for everybody. And I'm hoping Tony was able to plug in that video.
Yeah, I'll plug it in.
Of how that took place. But I said, I don't know who it's for, but this is for somebody. God brought me through, not just for me, but for someone else. And this video needs to get to him. And I said, I hope it finds you fast enough. And as we started recording the video and started looking at it, and I said, you know, Tony being the eye when it comes to media and understanding how to put things together to make sure it tells the right story. I let her see it, and she took it upon herself now to take the phone and start filming my rehab as I'm going to the rehab, and as I'm squirming behind the rehab and all this sort of stuff. And the power part of it, that thing had about 900 views on YouTube. And I started getting phone calls from churches asking me, is it okay if they utilize that to be a part of their service? So that for me, that was evidence that God brought me through, not just for me, because out of the 900 people or so, or groups that saw it, it blessed somebody else. And this happened in the last maybe year or two when I started getting calls. You don't understand, that video blessed me. And the reason why my son is still alive, because I showed him that video. And my son no longer rides a motorcycle because he saw what it did to you and how God saved you. So he has no desire to ever want to ride. So I started getting all this feedback about that video helped me. It helped my son. It helped our family heal. And um, so again, I give all glory to God, because at the end of the day, he did what he needed to do, and I was the vessel that he used to do it. And here it is today. You would not know that I was in an accident based on, my movement. And again, I'm not saying I'm all the way to bright. Do I still have a few ailments here and there? Absolutely. But I'm nowhere near where I used to be. And so, through the grace of God, here we are.
Yeah, such a time as this.
Such a time as this.
Such a time as this. That's so good. Oh my gosh. I want to, your mindset is phenomenal, because stuff like that can really break the soul. It can really set you back. It can really stop you in your tracks. And, you didn't let it. And I think, that was very inspiring as your child to see you not give up. I've never seen my dad give up, like, ever. Never in his life have I ever seen him give up or give in or throw in a towel. Like, you've always been a man of faith, even in your current situation. And I'm not going to lie, your current situation is, I feel like I'm about to quote Jalen Hurts, when he was talking about when he was in college football, and the cards that college football dealt him was not always in his favor, and I know for you, the cards that life throw at you was not always in your favor. And so if you can just kind of touch on what God is teaching you right now in this season between 2020, actually, I'll say between 2023 and now 2026, like in the past 3 years, what has God been teaching you about himself, his characteristics, and also who you are?
So a couple of things. One thing that I've learned, and that's surrendering, right? As a man, we oftentimes are so accustomed to, being a breadwinner, making sure that your family's taken care of. You take on the burden of everything and everybody, because at the end of the day, you as a man needs to do what needs to be done to make sure your family, is okay and all. And so, you get to the point where that becomes your sole purpose, is to be the provider of your family. And so, in the last year or so, although I was able to still try to provide, things just didn't work out the way I had anticipated. And so, I learned that when God is about to use you, and when he needs to do things through you, sometimes he has to break you. And when he breaks you, not from a humiliation perspective, not to make you look bad. It's more to build you. So the character that you build through the time, because you're chosen, through that character that you build is what builds you up, so that when he blesses you, those things that you thought that was important are no longer important, because where he's trying to take you is so much greater than where you are mentally and or physically. So when he just, what he does when he breaks you, he's breaking you, but he's making you humble. He's strengthening you because of the circumstances. And then the circumstances make you have to trust him. So when you have to trust him, you can't lean onto your own understanding. You got to just trust him. And when you get to the point where you trust him with your soul, heart, and because there's no other way you can see this thing working out, like clockwork, he shows up and shows out. And then I also find strength in you guys, the kids. So whether it's AJ, being in Tuscaloosa at Alabama, you at USC, Tanya at PV, Ashley in DC, Christopher in Birmingham, Michelle being where she is relative to just trying to build me, keep building, because I thought that they needed me because I was their sole provider. No, God made sure that I understood that they are, or you guys are his kids. And he is giving your mom and I the authority and the permission to manage you guys. And how you manage them is, how we brought you guys up. And so I realized he broke me, man. And at one point I used to feel like, man, what's going on, man? Hold on. I go from being this guy that is this very prestigious person that's able to go to all of these black tie affairs, all these functions, and being a part of the who's crowds and all these different things, to isolation. And I'm like, oh, man, isolation can't be good for anybody. But what he did, he isolated me so that I had that one-on-one time with him. And because of that isolation, he made sure that this next chapter is going to be so much greater than anything that I could have ever imagined or thought about previously. But here's the beauty. No one else will be able to take credit for what he's done. Because for me to go from where I'm going, from where I am to where he's about to take me, only he could take me there. Can't nobody else take me there. So can't no one else do anything other than make sure that no one can take credit for what he's about to do, because it's only him, and he's the only one that could bring me through it. And I tell you, man, there's times when you're like, man, why, Lord, why? I mean, this is, after everything that I've done, everything I've gone through, why? I chose you. He said, I chose you. And if I chose you, that means I got to make sure that you are prepared for every step that I'm taking you. Because you need to understand, it's me who's taking you, not you who's taking you. And more importantly, for what I'm going to bestow on you and your family, they need to understand, and all of those will understand, that it was only him, our God, our Lord, who took me from current to future, and everybody that's associated with me will be blessed. Everybody that's going to be a part of my life will be blessed, because I've just surrendered. And I'm like, I'm done trying to figure this thing out. I'm done trying to pretend this, that, and the other. Lord, here I am. Have your way. And again, it definitely humbled me. It allowed me to understand the importance of family, right? And not just family, community, right? Making sure that you're around the right people. And there are people that were with you because of what you may have been able to do for them or help them. But he needed to strip all of those people from me, so that I understand the people that's going to be around me going forward are the people that are for me. And he's giving me favor, right? He's giving me the desires of my heart, right? But in order for him to have done all of those things that he's about to do in my life, he needed to make sure that I can receive it all. Because again, if he had gave me all what he's about to give me now, back then, I wouldn't have been able to handle it, because my mind just wasn't right to handle all what he's about to do. Whether from a financial perspective, health perspective, I just would not have been the right person at that time to be able to accept all that he's about to do. So now I'm in a state of mind that I'm ready. I think he definitely told me I'm ready. And so I'm about ready to step into this next season that's going to be so much greater than I could have ever asked, thought, or even imagined.
I have like 3 more questions, really. I want to talk about the vision God has given you about your business, Angels of Hope Ministry. I want to touch on that, but I also want you to touch on the importance of having the Father in the house.
Yes.
So starting with Angels of Hope and then going to that.
So God gave me this vision about maybe a year ago. And it happened driving between Oklahoma into Texas, where there were quite a few tornadoes that had touched down, and you would see cars on the highway, buildings torn up, communities completely destroyed, and you're watching people move and move around, and then you're like, man, you feel helpless because you can't help. Um, and you start wondering, like, man, how could I become a difference maker to these people? And so Angel of Hope, God put that in my heart. And the whole gist of Angel of Hope is there's a ministry of where we actually go out, and it's like 5 trucks, and it may be more than 5 trucks based on the different communities that we're able to put in, or different states that we're able to put it in. But it's primarily to set up a perimeter to give people an opportunity to do a reset. And with these 5 trucks, there's food, there's perishable items, there's waters, there's a makeshift kitchen that feeds hot food. There's trailers on the trucks that allows you folks to take showers, use restrooms, clean restrooms. Because one of the things when I talked to a couple of people, especially in the Oklahoma area, that went through one of the things they often say is, after identifying that, okay, we're safe, and now I'm trying to find, number one, where my house is, and where's the lot that he used to sit in, and then you're like, the next thing is, man, I just wanted, if I can just take me a clean shower, reset myself, so now I can start thinking about what I need to be doing next, whether it's obviously getting in touch with insurance companies, um, positioning myself to where I can put out everything that I need, so that once I center myself, I now can start thinking about all the things I got to do going forward, and knowing that my family's safe. They got food to eat. We got a nice perimeter set up to where you've got security there. You got covered tents to where if it's hot, you can pump in air in these tents. If it's cold, you can pump in heat into these tents. And so the biggest thing is to make sure that you position yourself to where you become a conduit for the community, and give them hope that they're not in this thing by themselves. And so that's kind of like the whole Angel of Hope piece. But one of the things I want to do with it is not to just do it in Oklahoma, Texas, but I want to be able to do it in multiple states, and make it to where it's a part of when you talk about getting help from FEMA or some of the other disaster reliefs that are out there. We wanted the conduits to partner with them, so that we can make this thing bigger, better, faster. Because again, the government can only do so much, right? There's some things that as private owners, we should be able to do it to kind of help folks do what they need to do when they need to do it, and not have to wait, right? No one should have to wait to get a hot meal. No one should have to wait to take a shower. No one should have to wait to use the restroom. Those things we might think are very trivial or small, but in the grand scheme of what they're going through, those are some of the big things that they need. And be able to drink water, right? Clean water, right? Helping them get access to roads to where they can get into their communities, so they can figure out what happened, how, and what they need to do, and what they can salvage and move forward. So we're praying, we're believing that continues to flourish, get off the ground. We're gonna be looking for all kind of support, whether from local level, state level, or even federal level, so that we can make sure that we are there to do the things that needs to be done for those when they need it, right? And to answer your second question, the reason why, in my humble opinion, that I think father figures should be in their lives, especially young ladies. And so, to that young lady that's out there that doesn't have her father in her life, is a very, very hard tell, right? Because what they have a sense of trying to do is try to find a father figure in others, whether it's a boyfriend or a male figure that doesn't understand the importance of what she's needing at that time, because at that point, because she's so in need of what that father was not able to give to her, she's seeking that from folks that are trying to manipulate her based on how she loves and want that covenant and the connection from her father. So I encourage that young lady that's out there to please find someone other than someone that you know that's trying to manipulate you, do anything to destroy. And then from an integrity perspective, make sure you find somebody there, whether it's a grandfather or even it's the uncle or a friend that has a male figure that's in their life that you can try to glean from. And from a young man's perspective, I think it's a woman, and this is no notch or neck on women, but when it comes to, I think a woman, it's hard for a woman to teach a man how to be a man. And so relative to that father being in that young man's life helps him to do the things that he needs to do so that he can become the kind of man that God has called him to be. Because again, if you think about, we'll go back from a biblical perspective. Adam was first, right? Then God gave him a helpmeet because he knew that Adam needs somebody here to help him. Well, that man, that young man, is there to, at some point, be the head of his household for his family. And so, with that being said, he needs to be able to learn from the perspective of what it takes to do it. Again, you got some dads out there that's not doing the right thing, whether it's doing drugs, selling drugs, or what have you. But at the end of the day, most men or most kids that have fathers, and I don't know how, I don't have the statistics to verify what I'm saying, but what I believe, most of the young men that have fathers that are alcoholics or use drugs, they typically never use drugs and or drink alcohol because they see what it had done to their parents or their father at the time. So the importance of making sure that male is in their lives, female and or male, because at the end, that's where it starts. And at the end, if the enemy tries to tear a family apart, as he tried to do ours, is he attacked the man. And so if he can attack the man, everything else underneath that man doesn't have the foundation to sustain what that man can sustain, because God has put everything in that man for sustainability. So it's important that that man is able to stand, because God has put everything in him to stand, and not only stand, but to be the best version of himself by doing the will of God and bringing his family up. Because at the end, it's God, the man, his family, right? So that connection, you don't want to be out of alignment, right? And I know oftentimes women say, well, I don't need a man, I need that. But again, if you go back to the alignment of how it is, the structure, again, if there's a man not in your life, if the man's not in your life, that doesn't mean that you can't have that structure to where a woman could, because she may have had a supportive male in her life to where she can do all those things, being independent or whatever. I'm not saying that they can't do all that. The only thing I'm saying is that the importance of the structure of how the inception of how this thing was, it was God, the man, his wife, kids, family and career. But if once one can't overtake the other because you're out of alignment, right? So the importance is making sure that you do the things that you need to do when you need to do it, and be that vessel to shine. And the great thing about it, and this is probably one of the things I love, I've got people that pour into me. I got people that pray for me. I got people that always encourage me. Even those times when I don't see it, they still encourage me. They said, no, you remind, sometimes they have to say, hey, Tony, let me remind you of who you are. Let me remind you that the kind of man that God has called you to be. You're called to do this. You're called to do that. And And you're like, man, but why am I going through all of this? It's not to tear you down, it's to build you up. So I am so, again, I go back to community. Community is very, very important because having the right people in your circle to help you become the best version of yourself, love your family the way you're supposed to love your family, and love the people, whether they're God-fearing or not, because again, God said God comes for everybody, and you want to make sure that if a person that's a transit that's on the street, man, you don't have to treat them bad. Treat them kindly. You know, if you got here in New Orleans, we've experienced where we've seen some people that have challenges that you don't sit here and mistreat them and talk to them crazy. You pray for them, and you just, I'm not saying you gotta hold long conversations with them, but I just say you pray for them and you just keep it moving. But somebody, Bible says you should always pray, and so, and definitely for your brothers and your sisters, because there will be a time and there will be a calling when God judges us based on what we have done here on this earth and how many people we were able to bring to Him. And so those who are lost, how do you bring them back to the form of where God want to love on them? And that's when He talked about all the crowns that He's going to give you. You'll be able to throw it at His, lay it at His feet, and you want to have a lot of crowns to lay at His feet. And so that means that I always say when I get to heaven, I hope my warehouse is completely empty. And what I mean by that is all the blessings that God had for me, He can say, you know what, boy, I tell you, you use them all. Everything I've been wanting to give you, you got it. Every house you needed, you had it. Every car I had for you, you had it. Every financial situation from a perspective of growing, you had it. I get everything that I have from the moment that I set you here on this earth. Everything that I have for you, you have accepted it. You have taken it. It has come from the spiritual realm down to the natural. And I'm like, I want them to give me a high five and say, you did it and you had it. Let's keep it going. You don't want to go up there and your warehouse is full. You don't want to go up there and your warehouse is full, because your warehouse is full. That means that all that He's tried to give you, you didn't receive it. You weren't able to bring it from the natural, from the spiritual to the natural. You don't want that. So you want to make sure that you do all the necessary things that you're able to bring. I want to be empty, and I hope everybody wants their empties.
Yeah, man, that's so good. Oh my gosh, bro, that's so good. First, I want to say, I truly believe Angels of Hope Ministry will be fully funded. I don't think you'll have to come out of your pocket for anything, from the trucks to the sponsors. You'll be getting unknown donations from billionaires, just because God will touch their heart, and He's giving you the idea. It's almost like this podcast. Like he gave it to me, and I remember I used to be like, I don't know what to say, and He was like, I'll give you the words to say. Right. And just like with you, like you I don't know where to start. Well, I'll set the people up. Right. You've been in rooms with millionaires, like for real millionaires, and they all love you, and you've explained your idea to them, and they see it too. They see the vision. And so I just want you to know that I truly believe God is going to supply all your needs according to His plan and His heart for you. My last question, because I could keep going, y'all, is what does it mean to you to be born for such a time as this? What's that mean to you?
Ironically, man, that phrase is a phrase that I now use quite often, right? And just in general conversations. And so what happens is, the moment that you're in a situation and you see that you can't find a way, but however a way comes out, and you ask, well, how did that happen? It was for such a time as this. This moment, us with your podcast, right? The intimacy of just being around one another and talking and just general conversation. Here it is, I'm having just a general conversation with my daughter. I don't see all the lighting and everything else that's taking place. I'm just having a general conversation. And God, as He speaks, He's speaking through me. As He speaks through you, what time is this? Right? These moments are moments of accreditation of how His moments are for us. His timing is great, and all the things that He does is for such a time as this. And so, one of the things I love about my wife and what we're doing as a family is uniting, because we needed to go through a lot of the things, ups and downs that we needed to go through. So as we get to that point of such a time as this, you're able to handle all that He's about to bless you with, all that He's about to do in your life and for your life. And I'm super grateful for this platform. I'm super grateful for what He has put into your heart and your life. I pray that the great thing about this is a safe space and allows people the opportunity to be very vulnerable and to speak and to speak their life. Right? There's no judgment here or there. It's all about giving someone an opportunity to speak how they feel in such a time as this. And so, great name. I can't wait to see all that God's going to continue to do within this platform on your podcast. I think what you're going to do is going to be so much greater than what you think. And I think God is continuing to surround you with the right people, because you know a lot of the right people, man. And you've got great support system. You got great best friends. You got a great support system that helps you to do all the things that you want to do. So just continue to let God lead this thing, and He's going to bring all the things that you need, whether it's a studio, where there's no setting up of anything. It's just you walking in. All right, let's mics, cameras, action. Let's go. So anybody that's out there wanted to be a part of such a time as this, from a sponsorship perspective, by all means. Her name is Tony Hall. My name is Tony Hall, which is two great things. So please come out, support her. This thing's gonna grow to the millions. That folks are gonna be able to not only get saved behind it, but you're gonna get athletes and stars and just regular people have an opportunity to just speak on the greatness and the goodness of God that's in their life.
Thank you, Dad. I receive all that in the name of Jesus. Well, guys, we're going to close this out. I really thoroughly hope you guys have enjoyed this episode as much as I have. Just to hear my dad's story again is amazing. Just to see how God has used him for literally such a time as this is amazing. And so, Dad, as we close out, I like to ask my guests when they come on to the show if they can pray us out.
Absolutely.
If you don't mind, can you pray us out and speak to the viewers and the audience, and whatever God puts on your heart, just let Him do His thing. In
Absolutely.
Jesus' name.
Father God, we come this afternoon thanking You for all your mercy and Your grace and Your favor. Oh God, we thank You for this time such as this. We thank You, oh God, that this moment and the platform goes out to the millions in order to bring the lost back to You. Oh God, we love You, we praise You, we give You all the honor and the glory. We thank You, Father, for all those who searching for You. We thank You, Lord, that those that live in the north, east, west, and the south, that give up all of those that God has called them to His time. And we love You, Lord. We praise Your name. We give You all the glory. And we honor You in the mighty, magnificent name of Jesus Christ. We say amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen. All right, guys. Well, thank you, Dad, again.
Awesome.
It's been an honor. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Such a Time as This podcast. I am your host, Tony Hall, and man, it's been an honor. Thank you, and see you soon. Bye, guys.